thank you, CAADfutures, giving us this chance. Our topic is participatory design in the metaverse, sustainable habitat and housing customization. So as everyone knows, participatory design is a design method that actively engages end users and stakeholders in the design process. So what we did today with our participant was to explore the potential of applying it in social housing. And we problematize it by saying that public spaces in the domestic realm is actually an important extension of the living space, especially for places with very limited living space per capita. So it's not just facilities for people to sleep in, but it should actually facilitate activities that anchor community life and foster civic engagement. Now, of course, we're in Europe, so why don't we just do participatory design? What's the challenge? And obviously, this is the challenge. Where I came from, I'm from Hong Kong. One public housing estate easily facilitate residence for 9,000 people. So the same method that might be applied to the European context has to be articulated to different cultural contexts, different historical contexts, and most importantly, urban context. Yeah, and today we think Metaverse has the potential for that because theoretically, it can go beyond geographical, spatial, temporal constraint. You can fit in as many people as you can, as long as you have the server capacity. And we are seeing organizations like UN Habitat, which use Minecraft to do participatory design, right? But today we're asking as individuals, how can we contribute without the enterprise-grade solutions? Sarah, over to you.
Yeah, right. So we have a kind of a big presentation, so I'm going to short this one. We had a couple of research questions. Most of them are related to public space and social housing. Rob's already spoken a bit about that. The co-creation process, how that can be done. Also, how to use these metaverse tools in co-creation. So this is also kind of new, and we faced lots of difficulties that we will talk about at the end. And also, what are the present and future challenges related to the 3 dimensions of sustainability? Okay, we'll provide.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we for this workshop that we run today, we had 3 neighborhoods. The one's Barbican, which is a social development project from London. The second one is the estate from Hong Kong. And the third one was from Lisbon. These 3 scenarios were really interesting for our participants because they were exploring the different possibilities and constraints that were actually happening from historical perspective, also social perspectives, and economical for sure. For instance, the Vatican now is not exactly social, if you know, and also products kind of steps in between, and Hong Kong, the Hong Kong case is a kind of a copy and paste solution that has been literally applied in several places in Hong Kong.
Okay, so we had a very well-scheduled workshop. We started with a Zoom session because we wanted everyone to be in. We had a couple of people here, but most of the people that participated were online. And after the Zoom, we entered in Mozilla Hub and we had a tour. Each team explained the place and a bit of the story of that social neighborhood. Then we had a discussion about what the criteria that we were assessing. And then looking at what is now existing in that place, we rate. So everyone rated the quality of that space as it is now. And then we went to Miro, so we were shifting between different platforms. We went to Miro, and in Miro, we, in a collaborative way, we devised. We wrote about what the criteria, we wrote about the positive and the negative aspects, and we defined a couple of activities that we could implement in the 3 sites. And then we went back to Mozilla, and then we applied as far as we could, and we'll see the limitations at the end also. And then we stopped the VR, and we all went together again in Zoom, the 3 teams, to discuss the process and how it works in a co-creation perspective. And the page provides. Yeah. So I already said that we had 3 teams. The Lisbon team was here on site in that room, and the other two were online. So we tried to use Oculus here. It didn't work because of internet problems, but we did our best. And we also were facing lots of difficulties with internet in general. So the on-site team had some extra problems, but the online went really, really well. We'll go to that later.
That's okay. On preliminary results. Something that it's really interesting in this really interesting in this process is that first we ran a baseline set of questions that were answerable for the participants, in which we got several different answers. As we can see there, as the few examples we have there. But we're working or coming from the let's say the previous that we had. But then after the workshop, we ran the same questions, and then the responses were completely different. I'm not sure if in a positive or negative way, but the answers were completely radicalized in terms of, okay, after the full experience of VR plus the participatory design, the participants were, let's say, re-educated in terms of what exactly what's actually happening in what exactly we're learning from each side, and the responses were, I see, quite different.
Yeah, in terms of the public space evaluation, it was also quite interesting because when we tried to ask them to evaluate according to parameters, we didn't give them the option of saying they feel neutral. It's either yes or no. And from this, we can see in the Hong Kong result, most of the participant thinks that the facility can provide for all of the basic service. But when you actually look at the final rating, it's super low. Barbican, everything, it's yes, and everything was super high scored. But at the same time, if we look at the cost of living in the Hong Kong public housing estate versus the Barbican, I think the price, came for a reason. As for Lisbon, the opinion was more diverse, so people cannot totally agree whether it facilitates for meaning, sociability, comfort, safety, efficiency, but they for sure think there's no innovation.
Okay. So a bit overview about what was the case of Lisbon. So this is a neighborhood that was built in the 70s to rehouse people coming from slums. And it was the approach taken was a self-built one. So the state provided the load-bearing structure and the roof, and it also gave the materials for people to build the rest of the houses. But it was really low budget neighborhood, and nothing was done until now. Until recently, 10 years ago, there was a participatory design there that improved some of the public spaces. Nevertheless, this is a very safe neighborhood, quite nice. But things like we do as well.
Cool. So in terms of Hong Kong, our participant was very shy. They don't talk much. But once we started working, everyone was giving it all. So we summarized all of our ideas into making 2 design interventions. First is to integrate a community hall with a tea house because there was more of a local culture. And second is to make an intergenerational outdoor area. So when parents are watching their kids play, the parents can also have something to do and engage in civic interactions. At the same time, you can see that just the 3D tools was not enough to illustrate the idea. There was the need to integrate both the 2D tools in looking at planning, but also jumping in 3D for design.
And then, in the case of a Barbican, what we can see here is something really, really fascinating because all the interventions were trying to reinstall the idea of public space inside Barbican, because right now Barbican is kind of private in several ways and quite kind of high-end housing instead of social housing. So we can appreciate quite clear that the interventions were related with how to connect or reconnect the 3-dimensionality in this public space, also how to activate with the different meeting points of trying to congregate persons there again, because now it's just based on pseudo public space, but basically are mainly private.
Yeah, we love the stairs that leads to nowhere and the bridge that goes into the lake.
Which is also an option. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we think that in terms of strength, playfulness was the key. The idea that the virtual space can afford for us to do iteration of trial and error and to be able to jump out of that control freak work molds and also to pretend where everyone agrees to a notional reality that we are playing according to certain rules. At the same time, it's also realism. Even if we don't have the resolution of data to show us realistic images, but the notional reality actually creates the realism in the sense of scale, but also allow room for imagination and vertical interventions. We also think that it shows an aspect of inclusivity beyond spatial and temporal constraint. And the most important thing is that there were no marginal costs. So our entire team collaborated on zero cost, which means that even lower income urban fabrics, they can also initiate their own participatory design initiative without the help of third-party intermediaries.
Well, in terms of limitations, well, firstly, we cannot argue against the whole fun is this process because when we are working with VR, yes, it's actually real time.
Yeah.
But well, in terms of realism, there are few limitations now. But I think this system is going to be improved monthly. Yep. So well, the level of precision until something that we must take in consideration because now the machines are not really responsive when we are increasing the level of detail. Also, it's not controlling inclusive because still skills are creating a gap between participants. Also, in terms of self-infrastructure, internet of equipment, we suffer a lot about that today. In terms of visual exchange, we need to consider also in which rooms we are going to run this kind of participatory design process.
Yeah, okay, so really to close, for the future, participatory design is quite nice. Everyone agrees with that, but nevertheless, it's still a paradox because we still face architects saying we cannot touch this. So Barbican was kind of, no, we cannot do anything. So what is the room for inhabitants to look at this? We also need to balance and enrich experience. So adding more polygons, adding more realism, less realism. So how to do this also by all the problems that we face with the internet and engaging on experts. So this was something that was really missing also in the workshop. We tried to invite people that were not experts or were just inhabitants, but we could not find anyone who could enter Mozilla, all these technologies. So maybe the next time we try to do this in a better way. Something else was also that we missed the social experience there. So there are no people. There are no people in these environments. So the ones who don't know the neighborhoods, they were a bit confused with that. And of course, more intuitive tools for design. So even for us architects, this was difficult to edit, to design in Mozilla. And then also talk about and discuss these different experiences in using physical gear or doing everything in a virtual way. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're always looking for collaboration, so welcome to scan that QR code and get in touch.
I am sorry for speeding you up. You really good work and it's fantastic, and we would definitely like to hear more. We're really finding more time. So we have a time for one question. In the bus. No question? In the bus indeed. Well, we do have a kind of one. Thank you so much. We have one final thing to discuss. Thank you all the teams for your hard work today and for joining us in this place. I hope you actually enjoyed it. And now we will have the best paper award ceremony.